And that is the idea that has been floated by the Department of Internal Affairs, that our discourse, our interaction with each other, our very news coverage in this country needs to be somehow fixed or regulated by the government. That the internet is so groundbreakingly different, is so capable of corrupting our minds and spreading bad ideas, and that independent media is such a threat to freedom in this country or to democracy in this country, that a new bunch of bureaucrats should write their own rules and enforce their own compulsory standards on everyone who has more than 25,000 followers on the internet. It's a remarkable proposal, and submissions are being called for. It came out of the Department of Internal Affairs, and I note that one political grouping that came out extremely strongly against it was none other than New Zealand First, and the leader of New Zealand First, Winston Peters, joins us now. Mr. Peters, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're coping well, look like you're coping well with the disappointment of missing out again on the King's birthday honours.
You must be joking. Look, I've been privileged to give out the honours and nominate people and make them knights and what have you. Don't say that I'm worried about the removal.
Do you reckon that boat sailed for you, Winston?
What boat do you mean?
Oh, you know, being made an Order of the New Zealand Order of Merit or something like that.
Oh, give me a break. I mean, I think it's really comical, the people that line up and want those things, so to speak. And how shall I say, some people justify the honour and many of them don't. It's actually a circus sometimes. And I found it really quite amusing this time to be looking at who got it and thinking, well, in some cases I can understand, in some cases I got no idea why it happened.
Yeah. What about the former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern getting the big one?
Well, I can't understand how a Republican would take a knighthood. I can't understand how a Republican can take a knighthood.
Yeah.
Helen Clark.
Yeah, and at least she had the courage of her convictions. We might come back to that, Winston, but first I want to talk. The reason I invited you on, I digressed. My apologies. This Department of Internal Affairs discussion document, it's pretty stunning in terms of what it is suggesting we need in this country and why it thinks we need it. Were you surprised at what you saw in this proposal?
Not really. There is a insidious bunch of what I call apparatchik, bureaucratic goblins who have got an internal program of their own, a secret agenda. Here's the latest manifestation. It's everywhere. It was in Hey Pua. It's in every other report. It's on in Waka Kotahi. You name it, it's in there, all trying to, behind the closed doors, change the system. And this is its latest manifestation. And it's just not trying to control events. They're trying to control how people think. And Maori are going to have an oversight over everything that goes on social media. That's pure and simple. And certain elite Maori will have an oversight on everything that goes on the social media going into the future.
The document itself says, Winston, it would aim to take things that are just currently offensive and codify what is offensive, or give this body of bureaucrats the ability to say what is offensive to someone else, and particularly, as you mentioned, identified minority groups or vulnerable communities, as we call them. And I think a couple of commentators have said the terrible thing about a system like this is you don't even know what the law is until someone else decides that you've broken it, right?
Precisely. So the most fundamental principle of our system of society, and one that we inherited and one that we refined, is that you cannot be convicted of an offence that's not on the statute books. And right here comes Animal Farm.
All right.
1984.
Now, this is really interesting because I was thinking about this and I didn't know the answer. So I'm going to ask you, and you have practiced the law, you are a qualified lawyer. So if it's not on the statute books, what power does a regulator have? How is their power different? And membership of this, if it were to come to pass, the platform, for example, that I run and I'm a shareholder in, it would automatically be subject to this new regulator. What could that regulator do to me and my business?
Shut your business down. That's the ultimate. If they will not allow you to say things which people out there want to know, you've heard the old English saying, oft thought but ne'er so well expressed. It's about somebody giving voice to how people feel, but in a way where they can organise an opposition to it or be part of the changing of society. All that will stop because these thought police, these apparatchiks, these what used to be the Soviet Union thought commissars, thought police, will decide what can and cannot go up. And there goes your business.
Yeah, it would have a chilling effect on me and the people I work with here at the platform. Is there any argument for it, though? What was put forward last week was that young girls are reading stuff on the internet and becoming anorexic, and we hear again this morning social media influencers on the internet are bad people, and we've just got to stop bad people. We've got to live in this perfect world. Isn't there some argument to say the internet is such a powerful form of communication, such a powerful tool that we do need to control or ameliorate the bad messages and the bad stuff it can spread?
Well, of course that has to happen, and that's part of our education system. It's part of parenting. It's a part of the social wraparound, all the things they've been talking about for 30 years. It can take young people away from this misinformation. But on the internet is information that people desperately need. And sorting the two out is where the problem exists. And many societies have tried to decide how they're going to intervene. But in this case, this is nothing like that. You've got people who are saying, for example, that there's going to be a way of, for example, how should I put it, Maori cultural competency and restore mana through the complaints process. What on earth would that have to do with this issue that we're talking about?
So we would have a complaints process from a regulator which would not begin from a position of equality before whatever law they practice, but would be pre-invested in an outcome based on someone's ethnicity or their view of culture in the world.
Precisely. You're very right. This is not to get to the truth of the matter. This is not, for example, to have a better informed society. This is to make sure that some information that these people don't like, these cultural commissars or attitude or thought police, what they don't want to have is people hearing what other views and other political positions.
Winston, these Department of Internal Affairs officials didn't write this, come up with these ideas in a vacuum. They were told to do so by the current government, weren't they?
By an inner sanctum inside this current government.
Yeah.
It's funny to say that because looking back on reflection, I know that there are certain people who had no idea this was going on inside the current government, and some did. There was a little clique in there that had decided all this, and it's not by accident, it's not innocent. It is a serious purpose to change the thought framework of this country for long-term political outcomes.
All right. Look, while you're on that, the same as this happened, the platform itself was having an interaction with not a regulator, but a kind of self-appointed, body, the Press Gallery and the Council of the Press Gallery, which has changed its rules as to whom can be accredited to the Parliamentary Press Gallery. And I had my accreditation withdrawn on the 30th of April on the grounds that the organisation I represent is not a member of the Media Council, which I note is a voluntary organisation, and that I am not subject to the rules of the BSA, which has got nothing to do with me. I simply don't broadcast, so I'm not covered by that legislation. And the existing members of the Press Gallery decide that means I'm not a journalist. We do have the ability to appeal to the Speaker and appeal to the Press Gallery itself. But once again, that seems an example of a desire to limit what information and what views people can access, and actually my access to find out what politicians are doing and share that with other people.
Oh, well, sure, in your case, I thought they might have a point, but I'd be thinking that I'd be bitterly not. I've just been being nasty. No, you're quite right. You're entitled to be on there. You're entitled to find out the reasons. And frankly, I go back and I can recall significantly certain groups who were not there and who got added on, even if they're only, even they came in from Australia, as you well know.
Yeah.
They come here, based here, and straight away they become members almost as of right. So I think you've got a good point. I can understand why, of all people, the press are trying to be exclusive here.
Winston, and this is a big if you were to be in a position post the election where you would be negotiating to support or be part of a new administration, a new government, would this issue need to be put on the back burner? Would you? And I'm not going to ask you if it's a bottom line, because I think it's just so inherently bad it should be taken as read that this report hits bin 13 as soon as the government changes.
It's far more important than that for me and my party in this context. We want to know who these people are who are taking taxpayers' money with the intent of turning this country upside down in a dictatorial, elitist way. They're not concerned about democracy, not concerned about other people's views. You're talking, these people need to be found out. I want to know what they're doing in the bureaucracy. Their job was to get on and serve the people of this country and serve the political system, not join as a certain group to try and turn society upside down according to their dictums, their beliefs and their narrative.
All right, so you would make it an issue for a negotiation and say we want to deal with this if we're going to talk Turkey with whomever you might be talking Turkey with?
No, in this case, I'd be saying on day one, part and parcel of the coalition negotiations is to find out who these people are and name them.
Not often I get a bottom line for you, not without asking for one. So that is, look, I got to say, I'm with you on that.
I didn't say it was a bottom line. I said it's a matter of common sense that we do that.
ACT had their conference this weekend. That looked pretty well. All the left-wing journalists are losing their lunch over them. How are things going with New Zealand First, Winston? You haven't broken 5% in a poll yet. You've been 3.5 or 4.5. I've got to say, I'm talking to people, they say Shane doesn't have a show in Northland. But how is the campaign going? And do you think you will get there? There has been talk, obviously, too, that you might be the difference between a change of government or not. New Zealand First getting there.
Well, Shane, you know what I think of polls.
Okay.
Sean,
but come on.
Second thing I want to say to you is we have cracked 5%. We've been at 6.85%, and figures like that have been in the last 12 months. But what you've got in this country is a disgraced industry called the polling industry, where the gap can be 14 to 20% different between pollsters, and this makes them totally discredited a group of people or profession. Can I just say this? What matters is the size of the hall, meetings of the halls. We went to Blenheim, and ACT and National been down to Blenheim. They got nothing like our meeting. We got over 410 people turned up, couldn't get one more seat. We got a huge meetings coming up this next 2 or 3 weeks. And all we're saying is that the campaign's going great for us with some of the radar. Of course, ACT got all the publicity. I mean, first of all, if you're promising to set up a bureaucracy to get rid of a bureaucracy, which is what they were promising on the weekend, right? We're going to start a new bureaucracy to get rid of the old bureaucracy. Well, Rodney Hyde tried that in 2009. And Seymour was doing it in 2015 as an undersecretary. And here we come for the third time with all the headlines. Let me tell you, when all the dross and the glamour and all this money's over, the real hard yards start the next few months, you'll be seeing us coming back and in big numbers.
Yeah.
We got a great team. We got some very talented candidates and some serious experience.
All right, Winston, I just want to circle it round then. If you were offered by anyone a knighthood, yes or no?
Look, I say to you, Sean, I've been offered a knighthood twice already. Have I got one?
No.
Well, then, there's your answer. Why are people always asking?
All right.
Leaders, why he wants this? I've just told you. I was offered one in the past. Have I got one? No.
You could pass it on to me. I'd quite like it. No, I can't. I'm Irish. I'd never take it anyway.
It's in the good book. Sean, it's in the good book. By their deeds, you will know them.
Yeah. Hey, Winston, thank you for that. I will say, I am encouraged by New Zealand First's very clear attitude on what I think is one of the most important issues in terms of freedom of speech and people's rights in this country for quite some time. So I thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
No, thank you very much.
Cheers. That is Winston Peters, just plain old Winston, not Sir, not Count, not Baron, not Lord, not Earl. And I got to say, he walks the talk on that. His comments about Jacinda Ardern, not exactly complimentary. And I saw people losing it over the New Year's honours. And that's why I'm not on. I had maybe 5 minutes yesterday on it, and that was all about people hating on Jacinda Ardern. And I just thought, my life is too short. And I say to Dame Jacinda Ardern, yeah, look, a little bit, given you're a Republican, yeah, given you a bit of a socialist, yeah, maybe, but you know what? It'll get you that room upgrade and that flight upgrade, having Dame next to your name, won't it? So good on you. I guess if I got offered one, I wouldn't stand on my Irish heritage too much. And indeed, we've had a few lords, ladies and counts in going back a few hundred years in my family anyway. Not a big deal, honestly. There's Sean going on about it.